morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
You know, having a lot of talent, good looks, and being a genuine top hand are the qualities that back in the 40s and 50s would have led to a career in Western movies. And I think if this guy had lived in that era and was discovered by the right people, I have no doubt that he could have been just like Roy or Gene or Rex or many of the other singing silver screen cowboy heroes. But he's a day-working Oklahoma cowboy today who is as talented as they come.
Everything. You know, that's a good deal right there about being a cowboy. There's stuff that you can't put a price on.
That's Kevin Davis, and he'll share his thoughts on cowboy life and his music today. And let me remind you, he will be at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival in March. And Baxter Black always has something worth hearing.
If you are applying for a job as a hired man, here's a list of helpful hints to evaluate your potential employer.
I think you'll get a kick out of that one. And we have a busy Rangeland news file today, among other developments. There could be a big change in 2017's weather pattern.
Even if the water temps do stay cool enough to meet the La Nina definition, they may only stay cool for maybe a month or two.
And one of the best rhymers and reciters in the cowboy poetry world this week, Jay Snyder.
But the wind in John's face upturned his hat brim. I guess John hadn't noticed that underslung limb.
And that one's all about a great horse called Banjo. On the Irvine Saddlery and Western Wear horse training file, a lot of listeners have asked what to do about a horse that spooks easily out on the trail, and we'll try and help. And I'll visit with a guy that's cowboy to the bone, Kevin Davis, after he opens things up with a song written by his college ag professor, Luke Reed.
Saddle up and gone on the whole first light from the morning sun, and he won't step down till the evening comes, 'cause you know that a cowboy's work is never done. There's a range to ride, lots of strays to find, and you can't afford to lose a single one. It's the job he loves, riding for the brand, and you know that a cowboy's work is never done. He's always riding, roping, and cutting in the pins. There's windmills that need pulling, and there's always a fence that he has to mend. Well, the days are long, and the work is hard, and there's no time off for anyone. He'll be counting steers in his dreams at night, 'cause you know that a cowboy's work is never done. He's always riding and roping and cutting in the pins. There's windmills that need pulling, and there's always a fence that he has to mend. Got his favorite bay saddled up and gone long before first light from the morning sun, and he won't step down till the evening comes, 'cause you know that a cowboy's work is never done. Yes, you know that a cowboy's work is never done.
Well, that guy, of course, will be one of many terrific entertainers at the 21st Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival next month. And where did cowboy life start for Kevin Davis?
Well, I've been interested in it my whole life. My grandpa was a cowboy. And in fact, he done some up in Montana and Wyoming, but mostly there at Texas. I found out just this past year that he had at one time worked on a big ranch by Clarendon, Texas. And at that time, I've asked around, ain't found out for sure, but at that time, the JA was about the only big outfit going, so we don't know for sure. But anyway, I just always wanted to, and I started riding bareback right out of high school. Always roped, and then after I got out of high school, I rode and got hired on with a ranch there at Empire, Oklahoma, and really that's where I started playing music.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Who would be some of your early musical influences, maybe some of the performers, some of the writers that you used to listen to?
Oh, there's no question. The biggest influences for me in music, in the cowboy music, is Marty Robbins, obviously, and Red Steagall. And it's been really good for me because we used to travel down the road and listen to Chris Ledoux and Red going to those rodeos, and now Red is a friend of mine.
Wow.
And it's really neat.
He is one of the classiest Western gentlemen you could ever meet, isn't he?
Yeah, you bet. He's a good man, really good man.
And he understands the cowboy world and what it's all about.
Oh yeah, he's been there and done that.
Actually, he ropes pretty good, and it's his left hand, I think, that's limited in its use. He can't be too much.
Yeah, but shoot, it don't slow him down none. He can pick that guitar and rope. He can sling that rope now. He's good.
So you worked on ranches in that area, Texas?
Yeah, I've worked some there in Texas. They work mainly. Anderson's is the only ones I worked for full time, and I was just a young kid, and I've always loved it, and but I just felt like I needed to try to do a little something. So there was a fire department job come up there, and I put in for it, and they hired me. I don't know why, but they did. Anyway, it worked out really good because with a fire department job, you're off so much. I still day worked, probably more, because I was able to schedule around that fire department schedule, and it give me time to ride horses, and start some young ones. I've always done that, fooled with them, and it just worked out really good. And honestly, when I got hired at the fire department, it's when my guitar picking got kicked into overdrive.
Yeah, and can he ever play? More of Kevin's music and some of his real-life cowboy adventures when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. When I finally had a chance to meet Kevin Davis, we found out that we both knew a lot of the same people who'd made their living on the back of a good ranch horse, and one of them was Ryan Fritz.
This cowboy world is actually so small, it seems like, because I got friends that have worked on the Sixes and Wagners and Old Six, Coconuts down in Fort Davis, Texas, and Bridwells, and just all over. Well, they're all associated with boys up here, and now me and Ryan's friends, and it's just everybody knows somebody somewhere that you know. It's a really neat deal. They working down on J.S. Bridwell's there at Crosbyton, Texas. Went out there with actually the ranch I used to work for. The owner's brother-in-law is manager down there, and they had us come out, and we just had a great time. But I was clipping down through there, and we rode up on this hill, and there was a grave. There was an old grave there, and the government had come in and put a headstone up. And I don't know if you've ever been out there to Cap Rock. It's just gorgeous, rough land. But me and old Brian Clark rode up there, and we found that grave. Well, we ended up getting back to the wagon there at lunch, and we was asking old Mark about it. He said that was the last fight that Quanah Parker and them had right before. He was the last holdout of the Comanche tribe. They had a little battle right down there with the cavalry, and there was one cavalryman that got killed. I don't remember his name, but old Quanah Parker had shot him, and they buried him right there. Well, the cavalry kept track of it, and they come back and ended up leaving him, and they put a marker up. But that was the neatest thing, be out there. Shoot, I think that little old place is 22,000 acres, and we're out there fixing to start a gather, and right up there, it was 6 degrees that morning, and that's cold for us. And it was just everything. You know, that's a good deal right there about being a cowboy. There's stuff that you can't put a price on. Things that I've got a song on my new album. I've got to get that to you. Yeah. But it's called A Cowboy's What I'll Be, and that's what it talks about is the different things that cowboys get to do and see that you just flat can't put a price on. And if you did start putting a price on it, you're going to average out making some pretty good wages. Because there's a lot of people that just give anything, you know, to do stuff like that. But that's one thing that sticks out in my mind that I got to do that was just really, really a neat experience for me.
Have you ever heard the sound of hoofbeats in the dirt? Have you ever listened to a cowboy sing at work? Have you ever heard the sounds of a gathering fall? Oh, that lonesome coyote call. Have you ever watched the sunrise while sitting in a saddle, or look down from a hilltop at a valley full of cattle? Have you ever seen the sight of an eagle as he flies in that big wide open sky? Some things in this old world just don't have a price. A lot of folks are walking around unhappy with their lives. But I know it's the simple things that God has made for me. So cowboys, but I'll be. I've rode the Rocky Mountains, Lord, they almost touch the sky. I've heard the bull elk bugle and the aspens up on high. I lay down on my bedroll beneath the stars above, and I thank God for the life I love. Some things in this old world just don't have a price. A lot of folks are walking around unhappy with their lives. But I know it's the simple things that God has made for me. So cowboys, but I'll be. I know it's the simple things that God has made for me. So cowboys, but I'll be.
And that's from Kevin's second CD called Every Horse I Ever Rode. And besides his love of cowboy life and Western music, you don't talk to Kevin for long before the subject of horses finds its way into the conversation.
Yeah, she cracked my head open. I think little horses run out everywhere. That's about all I think about. I just love fooling with them. And I'm not near, I wished I was a lot better hand than I am. I try, but I try to learn from the guys. Old Buster McLaury, there's a good friend of mine, and he is one heck of a horseman. And
do you still start some colts now?
oh yeah, I always do. I try to keep 3 really good horses going, and then I always try to keep a few young ones going to just kind of swap trade, You know how that deal goes.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a challenge to find the right job. And you want to take your veteran horse, or would this be an opportunity where the colt can maybe get some experience? But if I'm on a colt, would I mess up and maybe not get it done?
Yeah. Well, that's the bad part about having a really good horse, because it sure is hard to put your saddle on something else.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I'll guarantee you what you'll think about. Shoot, you got to go rope old cow or something, just whatever.
Yeah, and it's just the way it can kind of work. I've got a mare that's getting up in years now, but she's one of those that just does anything and everything. She's not spectacular at anything, but there's nothing I can't do with her. She's really catty in the pen. I mean, she's cowy as heck, and weaning, we never get a calf slipping by us, and sorting out, heavy steers from light steers, or dry cows from wet cows, or whatever. She is so good, and she makes the big circles in the bush, and I drag calves on her at branding, and I rope big cows with her. And
it's always, never fails where you got those horses that need the work, and and they're so close it ain't going to take much to get them really going. But then you take that one out there that you know you can just get her done quick on.
Yeah.
But
that's the one you tend to take.
Yeah. I got a horse right now that I bought off a buddy of mine. He works for the Long X down there at Kent, Texas. And boy, this is easily, far and away, the best horse I ever had. He is something else. I just darn near spin out from under you. He's got it all and just begging to do it. That's what's such a pleasure about getting on him, boy. He just wants to. He's just one of them, you know.
Well, there's more to come from Kevin Davis, and a mutual friend of ours will join the conversation in a little while. Baxter Black is next when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at hints for the hired man. When you go to B&W Hitch Factory for a visit, you won't need a passport or a Chinese translator. Why? Because their hitches are made right here in the heart of America. Sometimes that gets lost in the whir of our global economy, but lots of American businesses have survived the recession without cheapening their products or outsourcing jobs. Instead, they chose to stay at home, share the work, and spread the benefits. Learn more about what B&W stands for by going to AmericanMadeHitch.com. If you are applying for a job as a hired man, here's a list of helpful hints to evaluate your potential employer. Number 1. If the new boss's hat isn't sweat-stained, you can pretty much figure out whose will be. Number 2. Phrases like, "My dad never paid me a dime till I was 25," or "I haven't had a day off since Dad's funeral in '87," should put you on guard. Number 3. Expensive equipment doesn't guarantee you'll be paid well. That might be where the money's all gone. Number 4. This should send up a warning flag. "My son is all state in every sport in school, president of the senior class, engaged to the banker's daughter, building a hot rod and learning to fly an airplane. He'll be helping you with the chores." Number 5. If the words "day off" or "insurance" bring a quizzical look to the boss's face, you better think it through. Number 6. You may want to reconsider when the new boss says, "I never had any use for dang newfangled gadgets like milking machines, PTO post-hole diggers, or a round baler. They just breed sloth." And number 7. It should be a tip-off if the prospective employer complains that he can't keep a hired man on the place. And number 8. Be suspicious if the boss's own dogs run for cover at the sound of his voice. Number 9. If the boss himself lives in a 1972 New Moon single-wide, don't expect much from his offer of housing furnished. And number 10. If the term retirement plan is mentioned, you can rest assured it's not yours he's talking about. But the best hired man learns that critical skill for getting along with a good boss, when to listen to him and when not to. The most successful arrangement I've seen that's lasted for years was between a couple old compadres of mine named Tom and Dale. Tom summed up their perfect relationship this way: "Wouldn't nobody else work for Dale, and nobody else would hire me. I got a job for life." This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
How about a weekend pass to the 21st Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 16th to 19th, 2017? A terrific lineup of entertainers including Kevin Davis.
Early morning finds me out along the Great Divide. I stop and watch the prairie come alive.
Jay Snyder.
Imagine you're a cowboy, and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you.
The one and only Ben Crane.
Hailing me with checking cows in Saskatchewan sandy hills.
And so many more. There's the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, evening concerts, a wonderful art and gear show, the Art of the West show and sale, workshops, and everything from guitar playing to saddle making. The best place to get all the details is bcchs.com. And for tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. Just ahead of the Rangeland News, here's another group that'll be making their first appearance at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival this year. They all spent their careers horseback in the Rocky Mountain National Parks, the Wardens.
When the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see. It's black as a cat up there on the hat. They can get pretty dark pulling into Flint's Park. In the eye of the storm up at Fish Lakes, where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It can get pretty bleak out on Isaac Creek. It's all growing dim at Little Heaven. Down from the summit, rolling into Scotch Camp, we're reading Sid and Marty by a kerosene lamp. And then the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see. When the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see where you belong. It's been a long day, the sun's setting low, a couple more hours to get to Brazo. Staring out over the horses at dusk, catch them in the morning, I've earned their trust. And then the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see. Then the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see where you belong. It's the kind of a darkness that'll show you the light, the lonely thoughts in the middle of the night. 'Cause this is the place that you're born to be, on a buckskin horse in the high country. Ursus Major in the Alpha Star, show you where you've been, tell you where you are. Scorpius, Virgo, Pegasus too, standing on guard, watching for you. And then the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see. And when the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see. When the lights go down, you're this far from town you can see where you belong.
Now the news of the Rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
Beef cattle ranching is an important part of British Columbia's economy. Most ranches are family-owned, operated by second or third-generation ranchers. Together, they employ over 4,000 people, supporting communities and local businesses such as veterinarians, mechanics, truckers, and more. Beef cattle ranching truly provides economic stability to many BC communities.
Now, the Rangeland News. Top of page 1. Not many years ago, we'd never heard the terms El Nino and La Nina. But it seems today forecasters rely on them for long-range weather predictions. So looking down the trail at the rest of 2017, what do we see, Gary Crawford?
After that strong El Nino, the warming of the waters of parts of the Pacific Ocean, forecasters were expecting a strong cooling called La Nina. However, La Nina appears to be a big fizzle. In fact, as far as Pacific water temperatures,
right now we're sort of on the edge between it being La Nina and neutral.
An Agriculture Department meteorologist, Mark Brusberg, told us even if the water temps do stay cool enough to meet the La Nina definition, they may only stay cool for maybe a month or two.
Too short of a period to be officially considered a La Nina.
Now, La Nina usually means smaller crops down in Argentina and Brazil. Now, there may not be a La Nina, and Brusberg says, of course,
whatever happens down there is going to influence our markets. And right now, we're looking at big crops coming out of Argentina and Brazil.
Not good for U.S. corn and bean producers, but if La Nina fades, it is good for farmers in the South. La Nina usually brings drought, which they've had, but without it, a return to normal rainfall patterns. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Researchers at the University of Saskatchewan are designing an endoscopy capsule capable of making detailed photographs of a horse's innards, which are kind of an unexplored frontier. Veterinary research Dr. Julia Montgomery of the Western College of Veterinary Medicine in Saskatoon says the camera innovation could check surgical sites from the inside and assist in the diagnosis of such ailments as inflammatory bowel disease and cancer. The only other methods are exploratory surgery or laparoscopy, which uses a lighted tube inserted through an incision, and neither of these provides a view from the inside. And veterinarians can also use an endoscope, but the minute camera on a wire can reach only as far as the horse's stomach. Montgomery's working with equine surgeon Dr. Joe Bracamonte and Con Walid, a specialist in health informatics and imaging at the university's College of Engineering. And earlier this year, 3 healthy horses and a large dog were tested using an endoscopy capsule, which is commercially available for humans. Humans swallow the camera, which looks like a large vitamin pill. Enough about that. The Alberta Minister of Agriculture has promised to keep talking with provincial beef organizations to resolve the debate over service charges on cattle sales. The ABP approved a resolution to make the $2 checkoff non-refundable. The checkoff was non-refundable until 2009, when the province changed the legislation to make all commodity group service charges refundable. In total, $3 is charged every time an animal is sold. It's split in 2 parts, with $1 going to the Canadian Beef Checkoff Agency, which distributes the money for national research, beef promotion, and marketing, and the remaining money goes to ABP, and that's the legal entity charged with dispersing money for research and marketing in the province. The national portion is non-refundable. Meanwhile, the agency that handles beef checkoffs once again has a new name. In the past, the handle for the organization managing the checkoff has bounced around a bit. The newly rechristened Canadian Beef Checkoff Agency has said that there is a change. Once known as the National Checkoff Agency, it's also been known as Canada Beef, and then its formal legal name, Canadian Beef Cattle Research, Market Development and Promotion Agency. The latter, they figured, was too long a name for a small team that administers the checkoffs. This is kind of interesting. Just found a recent study that says some 90% of cattle producers have converted from twine to net wrap on round bales over the last decade. Although it's thought to be okay to leave the twine on the bale when feeding or grinding, newer net wrapping effects on cattle consumption is potentially harmful. Net wrap does not appear to be digested in the rumen. It can accumulate, which has implications on production efficiency and cattle health if the digestive system is compromised. And the study goes on to say to stay safe, remove the net wrap prior to feeding, and dispose of it away from cattle. I'm not sure how a lot of you do it, but we've spent some time trying to pull lengths of twine out of a cow's mouth a few times, and so we always take the strings off for the cows and the horses. News from the BC Livestock Co-op. There's no sale Tuesday, February 17th or February 14th. Next regular sale is February 21st. For more information and schedules, just see bclivestock.ca. That's bclivestock.bc.ca. And out across the mountains, there, of course, are regular cattle sales every Wednesday and 2 horse sales a month at the Innisfail Auction Market. And on Saturday, February 17th, it's the P&H Charolais Bull and Ranch Gelding Sale. You can get all the information at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And now we are down to the final item It seems that 6 cowboys you may know are enjoying a poker game at a local casino. And after losing about $500, Ryan grabs his chest and he topples over dead. Now the other guys have to decide who is going to give Ryan's wife the news. So they decide to draw straws. Fred picks the short one. The other guys all say, well, whatever you do, break it to her gently. And Fred says, oh, just leave it to me. So when Ryan's wife comes to the door, Fred says, your husband just lost $500 playing poker. Really, she says. Tell him to drop dead. Oh my, and that's the Rangeland News. Next on the Irvine Saddlery and Western Wear Horse Training File, what to do about a horse that really spooks easily out on the trail. And more from Kevin Davis when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. I was just looking over the passenger list for our Spirit of the West cruise to Alaska in June, and boy, what a great group we have coming up for this unique journey and exploration trip that includes the Denali Railroad and several great shore excursions, lots of music and stories, and much more. And somehow, Jim and Karen have managed to obtain a few more cabins from Holland America, so we might still have room for you. You can see our entire itinerary on the cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com, or just give Jim and Karen a call at 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
I've had a lot of listeners ask about what to do because their horse spooks easily out on the trail, and we'll get into that in more detail right away. Experience the true Spirit of the West at Canada's largest Western store, Irvine Tack and Western Wear. If you need a curb strap or a 4-star gooseneck trailer, you'll find it here. A saddle for every rider. Cutters, reiners, penners, trainers, work and ranch cowboys, ropers. They have over 1,200 in stock. And they have Western wear for the entire family. And how about a gift card? Shop online at irvinesaddles.ca. Free shipping on orders of over $100. irvinesaddle.ca, 1-877-946-9494. Man, did you see the buys that Irvine's had on saddles during Boxing Week and after Christmas? And they still may have a few left. Best way to find out is go to their Facebook page. Oh, what a store to get lost in. Man, oh man. Anyway, on with the Horse Training File. And, you know, one of the most common concerns I hear a lot of riders express is that they are really worried about their horse spooking, especially out on the trail. Most of them would really like a horse that's totally bomb-proof, but boys and girls, there really is no such horse. All horses will spook sometime. It's their basic survival instinct to react when they see something they perceive as a threat. And my feeling is that the degree of severity of the spook very much depends on the amount of trust, comfort, and confidence the horse has with the rider. Now, there's a couple of ways that horses will spook. For example, if I'm riding along a trail and a grouse flies up from underneath us, or we spook a sandhill crane out of a creek bottom beside the trail, the horse will probably spook. Some will jump sideways or swap ends and then stand and try and figure out what they're looking at. Others will jump and go to bucking, and some will flat out try and run away. With a lot of horses, it's something that a good rider just has to be ready for, riding in a balanced position, weight equally on your seat in both stirrups, and hands not tense or tight, but in a position where with one rein you could bend him and disengage his hindquarters. The other kind of spook is one where you have some advance warning. Your horse's head comes up, he intently stares at something off in the distance, and his ears are riveted on whatever it is that he's concerned about. And here's where it takes experience and judgment to know what to do. If you know the horse pretty well, and you feel confident, then you can remind him with your legs and body position that it's okay, you're in charge, and we're going forward. But if you know that won't work, then you need to find a way to get his mind off of that scary object in the distance and back on you by maybe trotting in a circle and changing directions a few times. What can you do to have these spooking episodes become less frequent? Well, It's important on any ride to make sure your horse will check back with you whenever you ask him. I'll often just wiggle my left foot in the stirrup, maybe touch him lightly with my spur, and watch for his left ear to flick back in my direction. And do the same on the other side. And the more often you do that, the more often he'll remember that you are his trusted leader, you're in control, and he'll find comfort with that. Something else our horses really appreciate, and it does not have the side effects of some hyperactivity that grain can, and that's a daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. They've got several varieties for different kinds of horses now, and you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. And that is the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File. Enjoy the Kamloops Cowboy Festival without the worry of winter driving. Frontier Buck Lines will leave Central Alberta March 16th and return on March 20th. There'll be great entertainment on board, and the package includes luxury motor coach transportation, 4 nights accommodation at the Coast Hotel and Conference Center in Kamloops, $15 daily meal coupon, 1 transfer to the Horse Barn, a weekend pass to the Cowboy Festival, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday dinner and entertainment at the Convention Center. For more information, call 1-888-538-7287. And from what I hear from our Alberta friends and listeners, those bus trips are getting quite a reputation for a real fun experience. Well, I'll be talking more with Kevin Davis, and an old friend will drop in and join the conversation. But first, this is a neat song from Larry Sands, and he's kind of a rodeo cowboy legend in his own right. He's joined on the second verse by Gary Felgard.
Riding down a windswept valley, morning sun is on the rise. Watch the beauty of the eagle, flying patterns in the sky. Home is where the heart beats as you ride a mountain trail. Hear the rhythm of the hoofbeats, a lonely coyote wail. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, thinking about the days gone by. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, running through the memories of my mind.
Days are getting shorter, wind blows up a northern storm. Pull the oilskin from my saddle, bundle up to keep me warm. Wondering where I'll camp tonight, must be for the daylight's lost. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, a few more rivers to cross. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, thinking about the days gone by. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, running through the memories of my mind. Years have come together now, folks back home don't realize what makes this old man's heart beat, riding under the western sky. Sun is slowly setting on this cowboy's long lifeline, with no legacy behind him. One more mountain to climb. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, thinking about the days gone by. Hoofbeats and heartbeats, running through the memories of my mind. Running through the memories of my mind.
Beautiful song from Larry Sands and Gary Felgard, and boy, their voices really blend nicely there. And that's the title track from Larry's great CD, Hoofbeats and Heartbeats. Well, another mutual friend that Kevin Davis talked about was the great cowboy poet and rancher from Oklahoma, Jay Snyder.
I tell you, old Jay, if it wasn't for Jay, nobody'd know who I am, because I'm the worst businessman you ever met in your life. I don't have no business cards. I don't have no website.
You don't have a big fancy press kit and publicity photos and glossy pictures and all this stuff? Nothing to autograph except your CD?
It's gotten so bad now that people will come up and ask me how to get a hold of me and stuff, and I'll say, well, you have to call Jay. I'll put it off on him.
Well, there, speaking of Jay, come on over, Jay. Yeah.
Come over here, sit down.
We're live on the Spirit of the West. Yeah, I was just telling Kevin how you told me 2 or 3 years ago that there's a CD I should be playing on the Spirit of the West from Kevin Davis, and you said you'd get it for me next time you saw me, and must be 2 or 3 years later, and we walked in here and you said, oh, here it is, Hugh.
Well, better late than never, I guess, isn't it?
I'm sure glad you did.
Oh, it's a great CD. Yeah, we're really proud of Kevin down in our part of the country. He's a really talented songwriter, singer, and cowboy in his own right.
And he's telling me you put on a big timed event deal down at your place?
Well, we put on a little timed event championship, we call it. It's more of a cowboy reunion than it is anything. We have a lot of friends and family that come together, usually the first weekend in October, and it's kind of an invitational deal, but everybody that comes and ropes has to head a steer, heel a steer, rope and tie down a calf, and then we have a little branding towards the end of the roping, and it's just a fun day, but sometimes you'll see more wrecks than you really want to. It's kind of really a fun deal. We have a little chuck wagon supper and some entertainment after the deal's over with. A lot of fun.
Can you specifically describe any of the wrecks that maybe you've witnessed over the years?
Well, one year...
You don't have to mention names.
One year we were in the calf roping. We were roping some pretty big old calves, and they weren't the best calves in the world, but one kid roped his calf and wallered him around there for about 2 or 3 minutes and never could get him down, and finally just went to the end of it and bulldogged him down. Well, the calf fell on top of him, and about 2 minutes of him wrestling that calf, he just give out, and so was the calf. So it was really a funny deal.
Well, there was much more to that conversation, and we really got into detail about horses, and especially good ranch horses, and we'll try to bring back more of that in the coming weeks. Next, a real treat in our classic Western song segment, and then Jay Snyder in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Time to look back at an old classic Western song, and this one was written by the guy who wrote Gene Autry's famous theme song, Back in the Saddle Again, Ray Whitley. And Gene, by the way, bought that song from Ray for $200. Ray Whitley worked as a Texas ranch hand, a cab driver, an electrician, a steel worker, and he actually worked on the New York Empire State Building. And after that, he turned his fine voice and great guitar playing to a musical career, and he had bit parts in a lot of movies with Hopalong Cassidy, Gene Autry, and Tex Ritter, and he appeared in a lot of the Tim Holt movies, and he almost always sang a song in one of those. A lot of people said that's why they watched the Tim Holt movies, just to see Ray Whitley. And here's an interesting story. In 1937, he was the manager of the Sons of the Pioneers. He negotiated a contract that landed them roles in a series of Charles Starrett movies, but Ray later said, He was disgusted with what Columbia offered the pioneers, and he told them the pioneers were the best and at least worth 10 times the $200 a week they'd been offered. He fought for a 2-week minimum when the studio indicated they'd expected the pioneers to complete their shooting in a week. But even after succeeding, Ray refused to sign the contract himself, still believing the group to be worth more. As a solo artist, I think he was a better singer than Gene Autry. And his group, the 7-Bar Cowboys, did wonderful western swing, tight harmony, and sparkling yodels. They had a super banjo player you'll hear today. Don't know what his name is, but it sounds like Louis Big Rig McIver. But he's way too young to be this guy. Anyhow, here's a real western classic, Ray Whitley and his Bar 7 Cowboys, and come on, boys.
Come on, boys, we're riding into town, going where a good time can be found. We're riding high today, 'cause we've got our monthly pay. Come on, boys, we're riding into town. Whoopie-tie-yi, we're on our way, gonna have a good time tonight. Whoopie-tie-yi, oh, here we go, gonna have a good time tonight. Whoopie-tie-yi, we're on our way, gonna have a good time tonight. Whoopie-tie-yi, oh, here we go, gonna have a good time tonight. Come on, boys, we're riding into town, going where a good time can be found. We're riding high today, 'cause we got our monthly pay. Come on, boys, we're riding into town. Whoopie-tie-yi, we're on our way, gonna have a good time tonight. Whoopie-tie-yi, oh, here we go, gonna have a good time tonight.
Now, as I mentioned, both Kevin Davis and Jay Snyder will be at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival next March, and here's Jay.
No tales of good cow ponies in our country abound, but distinguishing truth from fiction is sometimes tough, I've found. Good horses are made by good men as a rule. I've got a tale to tell you, so y'all drag up a stool. Now, old John could sure brag about his roping ace. He said none could compare when he is giving chase. Old Banjo can follow a rabbit right into his lair and squirt out the other side without mussing your hair. Now I had occasion to witness such deeds. 'Twas early a fall morn while gathering steeds. John was behind 'em a-pushing 'em down when this rabbit cut loose. He's a-gathering ground. Now this may sound strange, but I'll assure you they're facts. Old Banjo fell in, he's knocking out the hare's tracks. But the rabbit's sly like a fox and quick like a cricket, so he ducked off to the right into a sandplum thicket. Well, into that thicket Banjo plunged like a deer, and old John lost his rein, so he couldn't steer. The plum bush thorns was as sharp as a knife. Old John was beginning to fear for his life. Then bugs cut a trail out into the wide open prairie, and the sight that befell me was truly quite scary. John's clothes was all gone, except for his old Stetson hat, but Banjo wasn't quitting, I'll assure you that. Now Bugs, being agile, led most of the time. Banjo's on his tail till John gathered his lines. Battered and bruised, the blood running red, then they slid to a stop right there in the riverbed. But off to the north they'd spooked a buck deer. I guess Banjo figured it was a yearling steer. 0 to 50 in 6 seconds flat. John's sitting there naked except for his old crumpled hat. Well, the deer hit the ground just as light as a feather, and Banjo's behind him, John still grabbing leather. But the wind in John's face upturned his hat brim. I guess John hadn't noticed that underslung limb. Well, the thud was as deafening as a rifle shot, and I'd never seen such a whooping as the one John got. He lit flat on his back right there in the prickly pear, and I just knowed John was dead till I heard him swear. Then relief and elation was the feeling I had, 'cause John's close as I got to being my dad. But had he not revived, we'd buried him down south, 'cause the thought was sure sickening of mouth to mouth. As for Banjo, his pony, his tracking is fair. He had tracked rabbit and deer without mussing John's hair. Not a hair out of place, the gospel John had been telling. 'Cause when John tips his hat, he's as slick as a melon.
Well, thanks so much for riding along, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. Thanks again to the Spirit of the West support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan of Meadow Springs Guest Ranch. And if you need tractor parts at a great price, Mark can sure help. See his new website, bctractorparts.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.